For thousands of years, humanity looked into the night sky and wondered whether anyone was looking back, but no human being imagined that the answer would come with a warning that would change the fate of the entire universe. It began at 3:17 Universal Time coordinated on a cold morning in the year 2198, when every telescope, satellite, communication network, military radar, and deep space probe on Earth suddenly stopped working for exactly 11 seconds. There was no explosion, no electromagnetic storm, and no visible disturbance. There was simply silence. Then every screen on Earth came alive at once. A message appeared in hundreds of human languages, followed by a voice that did not sound human. "Children of Earth," it said, "you have been observed." Governments immediately assumed it was an attack. Nuclear forces were placed on maximum alert. Fighter squadrons launched from underground bases. The United Earth Defense Command activated every orbital weapon it possessed. Then the sky changed. Above the Pacific Ocean, a circle of darkness appeared among the stars, and from that darkness emerged a structure so enormous that astronauts aboard the International Lunar Station watched in disbelief as it blocked half the stars behind it. It was not a ship in the human sense. It was a moving city, a metallic ring nearly 12,000 kilometers wide, surrounded by thousands of smaller vessels. Humanity had finally discovered intelligent life, but the aliens had not come in peace. They had come because something was coming for everyone. The first alien transmission came from a creature named Commander Vale, leader of the Aethery expedition. His species had 4 arms, silver-blue skin, and enormous golden eyes, and his voice carried the exhaustion of someone who had watched too many worlds die. "Humans," he said, "we have observed your civilization for 3,000 years. We watched you discover electricity, split the atom, reach the moon, leave your solar system, and build machines capable of thinking. We believed you were young, aggressive, and dangerous. We were correct about 2 of those things." The human representative stared at him. "Why are you here?" President Mara-Chan asked. Vale's expression became serious. "Because your galaxy has been marked for extinction." The room fell silent. "By whom?" she asked. Vale looked directly into the camera. "Not whom. What?" Behind him appeared an image of space, and slowly a black region expanded across the holographic map. It was not a planet, not a fleet, and not a cloud. It was darkness moving between stars. "We call it the Void," Vale explained. "It is older than your species, older than ours, and perhaps older than the universe itself. It consumes energy, matter, stars, and eventually the civilizations that depend upon them. We have fought it for 4,000 years. We have lost 47 billion worlds." The humans were skeptical. Humanity had survived wars, pandemics, ecological disasters, and even conflicts between nations that once possessed enough nuclear weapons to destroy civilization several times over. But this was different. This was not an enemy they could understand. "Why warn us?" President Chen asked. Vale answered with a sentence nobody expected. "Because you are the only species we have ever seen do what you did." The screen changed. It showed a human colony on Mars, where an explosion had destroyed an underground habitat. Hundreds of people were trapped. Rescue teams had entered despite radiation levels that should have killed them. Another image appeared, a human mining ship damaged near Jupiter, its engines failing while debris surrounded it. Instead of abandoning the ship, the crew had repaired the engines while manually welding the hull during a meteor storm. Then another image showed soldiers carrying wounded comrades through a battlefield. Vale said, "Every civilization we have encountered has a point where survival becomes more important than everything else. When survival becomes impossible, they surrender. Humans do something different." He paused. "You continue." The Galactic Alliance invited humanity to join them, and for the first time humans traveled beyond the boundaries of their own star system and discovered that the universe was far stranger than they had ever imagined. There were civilizations that had built planets entirely from artificial material. There were species that lived inside gas giants, civilizations whose cities orbited black holes, and ancient machines that could move moons from one star system to another. Humanity was technologically young compared with most members of the Alliance. Their ships were smaller, their weapons weaker, and their population insignificant compared with civilizations that had existed for millions of years. The aliens expected humans to be useful engineers and soldiers, nothing more. That opinion changed during the Battle of Charon. The void arrived without warning, appearing as a wave of black energy at the edge of the system. The Alliance fleet contained nearly 20,000 ships. It should have been enough. It was not. The void consumed the first 1,000 ships in less than a minute. The Dravari fleet turned and fled. The Kelm ships followed. Even the Aetheri began retreating. Then the human commander, Admiral Thomas Reyes, received the order to withdraw. He looked at the tactical display. Charon was home to 12 million civilians. How long until evacuation? He asked. 40 minutes, his officer replied. How long until the void reaches the planet? 27 minutes. Reyes stared at the screen. Then we have 13 minutes to buy. The human fleet turned around. The aliens could not understand what they were seeing. 400 human ships moved directly toward the void while the rest began evacuating civilians. They are going to die, Vale whispered. Yes, one of his officers replied. Why would they do that? Vale watched the human ships accelerate. Because someone has to stay. The battle lasted 21 minutes. Every human ship was destroyed. But 12 million people escaped. That single event changed humanity's reputation throughout the galaxy. The aliens began calling humans the impossible species. The war continued for 2 years. Humanity fought beside civilizations that had once considered them primitive. Human engineers developed new weapons. Human scientists studied the void. Human soldiers fought on planets where the sky itself was collapsing. But the void continued winning. The Dravari Empire disappeared. The Kelm civilization lost 80% of its worlds. The Aetheri homeworld was destroyed. Commander Vale watched his planet die from the bridge of a human ship. He did not cry. His species had evolved without tears. But he sat alone for hours afterward, staring at the empty star map where his home had once been. Elena Carter, humanity's leading theoretical physicist, found him there. You lost everyone, she said. Vale nodded. My family, my city, my species. Elena sat beside him. I'm sorry. Vale looked at her. Why are you still fighting? Elena did not answer immediately. Because people are still alive. Vale looked away. What happens when there are no people left? Elena replied quietly, then we'll fight for the memory of them. That answer stayed with him. Months later, Elena discovered something terrifying. The void was not an invading civilization. It was not a weapon. It was the final stage of the universe itself. The universe was losing energy. Space was destabilizing. The void was simply the process through which everything was being consumed. There was no army to defeat. No emperor to assassinate. No headquarters to destroy. The universe itself was dying. Elena presented her findings to the surviving Alliance leaders. Nobody spoke for several minutes. Finally, an alien scientist asked, how long? Elena looked at the projection. Approximately 9 months. The room erupted in panic. 9 months until the last stars disappeared. 9 months until the universe became completely dark. Then Elena revealed the second discovery. Ancient civilizations had known about the coming collapse. Before they disappeared, they had constructed something at the center of the universe. The Genesis engine. A machine capable of restarting cosmic expansion and creating a new universe. But there was a problem. The engine required a living consciousness to activate it manually from inside its core. Whoever entered would be exposed to unimaginable energy and would never return. Commander Vale immediately stood. "I will do it." Elena shook her head. "No, my people are dead. So are millions of ours. Then let me give my life meaning." Elena stared at him. "You think humans don't understand that?" Vale looked at her. "Then who will go?" Elena answered, "I will." The final fleet was assembled from every surviving civilization. There were only 3,000 ships left. Humanity contributed more than half. The fleet traveled toward the center of the galaxy while the void consumed everything behind them. Stars disappeared one after another. Entire planets vanished without explosions, simply becoming nothing. The final battle began at the edge of the Genesis engine. The engine was larger than a star and surrounded by rings of ancient machinery. The void appeared behind the fleet like an ocean of darkness. "All ships," Admiral Reyes transmitted, "this is our last stand. We are not fighting to destroy the void. We are fighting to hold it back long enough for Elena Carter to reach the engine." Every surviving ship accelerated. Alien weapons fired. Human missiles crossed the darkness. Massive energy beams tore through space. Ships exploded everywhere. The void consumed them by the thousands. Vale commanded the ethery survivors. Reyes commanded the human fleet. Elena's small vessel flew directly toward the Genesis engine. Then something impossible happened. The void changed direction. It began moving toward Elena. It had detected the Genesis engine. It knew what she was trying to do. The darkness accelerated. "It's coming faster." Elena's pilot shouted. Reyes received the message. "All human ships," he said, "form a shield around Elena." The remaining human fleet moved into position. Vale joined them. The alien commanders protested. "Your ships cannot survive." Reyes replied, "They don't have to." Thousands of ships formed a wall. The void struck. The first line vanished. The second line disappeared seconds later. The third line held for only 18 seconds. Human crews continued fighting even as their ships were destroyed around them. A captain transmitted, "How long?" Reyes replied, 3 minutes. "Understood." Another captain said, "Admiral, we're out of missiles." "Then use the ship." One by one, human vessels accelerated directly into the void, sacrificing themselves to slow it down. Vale watched in disbelief. "They are insane," one alien officer whispered. Vale shook his head. "No," he looked at the human ships. "They are human." Elena reached the engine. She entered the core chamber and found a control interface unlike anything humanity had ever built. A voice appeared in her mind. It was ancient. It told her that the universe could be reborn, but the process would erase everything remaining in the current universe. Elena hesitated. Billions of lives were still fighting outside. She could end the universe now, or allow everyone to die slowly. Then she heard a transmission from Reyes. "Elena, whatever you see in there, remember one thing. Humanity doesn't need to survive forever. We just need to make sure something does." Elena closed her eyes. She activated the engine. The Genesis engine began to glow. Across the galaxy, the void stopped. Every remaining star froze. Every ship stopped moving. For one terrifying second, the entire universe became silent. Then the darkness began collapsing inward. Galaxies folded. Stars exploded. Space itself compressed into a single point. Elena watched the final images of humanity disappear around her. Then she heard Vale's voice. "Elena." "Yes." "Thank you." "For what?" "For teaching us how to fight for tomorrow." The connection ended. The universe disappeared. There was no light. No darkness. No time. Nothing. Then, after what could have been a second or a billion years, something happened. A tiny spark appeared in the void. It expanded. Energy exploded outward. New space was created. New stars formed. New galaxies appeared. Planets emerged. Oceans filled worlds. Life began again. The universe had been reborn. But there was one thing the ancient machine had not destroyed. A single ship had survived inside the Genesis engine. It drifted through the newborn cosmos. Its systems slowly activated. A computer voice spoke. Reconstruction complete. A human woman opened her eyes. It was Elena Carter. She looked through the window and saw a universe that had never existed before. "Where are we?" she whispered. The computer answered, "Unknown cosmic environment. Estimated age, 4 million years." Elena smiled. "How many humans survived?" The computer paused. "Unknown." Elena looked behind her. The ship's doors opened. Hundreds of human soldiers, scientists, engineers, and civilians stepped into the command chamber. They had been preserved within the ship's emergency systems. Then another signal appeared. Elena looked at the screen. "What is that?" The computer answered, "Artificial transmission detected." Elena activated it. A voice spoke from somewhere far beyond their galaxy. "This is the Republic of New Ethery. We are searching for survivors of the previous universe." Elena froze. "Ethery?" The voice answered, "Yes. We believe our ancestors fought beside humanity before the universe ended." Elena looked at Vale's old insignia, which she had kept beside her during the final journey. She smiled sadly. "Tell them," she said, "that humanity survived." The message traveled across the newborn universe. Civilizations that had evolved after the rebirth heard it. Some were confused. Some were afraid. Some believed it was a myth. But the message continued spreading from star to star: humanity had survived the end of the universe. Then something even stranger happened. The New Ethery discovered an ancient structure buried beneath one of their planets. Inside was a message left by Vale before the universe collapsed. It contained only a few words: "If you find this message, remember the humans. They were not the strongest species. They were not the oldest. They were not the most advanced. But when the universe itself was dying, they stood between the darkness and everyone else." Millions of years later, children from dozens of alien civilizations learned about humanity in their history books. They were taught about the ancient war, the void, the Genesis engine, and the impossible human fleet. Some believed humanity had become extinct. Others believed the stories were legends. But every civilization knew one thing. Somewhere beyond the stars, humanity was still traveling. Elena Carter stood on the bridge of the first human ship of the new universe and watched thousands of vessels gather behind her. They were no longer merely refugees. They were explorers again. Humanity had lost its home, its old universe, and billions of people. But humanity had gained something greater, another chance. Elena looked toward the endless stars. "Set a course," she said. The navigation officer asked, "Where?" Elena smiled. "Everywhere." The fleet entered hyperspace. One by one, the ships disappeared into the stars. And as the final human vessel vanished, a message was transmitted across the universe: to every civilization listening, we are humanity. We have survived the end of one universe. We have no intention of dying in this one. And somewhere in the darkness, something ancient heard the message. Something that had survived even the previous universe. Something that had been waiting for humanity to return. The stars began to go dark one by one. Elena looked at the display. What is happening? The computer answered, unknown. Then a voice appeared across every human ship. It was not Vale. It was not human. It was something older. Humanity, the voice said, you survived the universe. Elena stood silently. Now, the voice continued, let us see if you can survive what comes next. The bridge went silent. Then Elena smiled. Finally, she whispered. A challenge. The human fleet accelerated into the darkness, and for the first time in the history of the new universe, the stars themselves seemed to tremble. Because the universe had once tried to destroy humanity. It had failed. And now humanity was coming to discover why.